Lord, who will enter the kingdom of heaven. You'll be my friends if you do what I command you to do. But is that what we are doing today? Are we doing what we are commanded to do? Or we do our own things in the name of God? In the Old Testament, when Moses encountered God in the burning bush, he inquired of him, "Who are you? What do I go and tell the children of Israel? Who do I?" Let us hear this conversation between God and Moses, because this is where God was explaining to Moses who he is. When the Lord saw him coming over to look at it more closely, God called out to him from the bush, "Moses, Moses." He answered, "Here I am." God said, "Come no nearer. Remove the sandals from your feet, for the place where you stand is holy ground. I am the God of your father," he continued, "the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob." Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look at God. But the Lord said, "I have witnessed the affliction of my people in Egypt, and I have heard their cry of complaint against their slave drivers. So I knew well what they are suffering. Therefore I have come down to rescue them from the hands of the Egyptians and lead them out of that land into a good spacious land, a land flowing with milk and honey, the country of the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivites, Jebusites. So indeed the cry of the Israel has reached me, and I have truly noted that the Egyptians are oppressing them." This is God, the God who has seen and heard the cry of the Egyptians. "Come now, I will send you to Pharaoh to lead my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt." But Moses said to God, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and lead the Israelites out of Egypt?" He answered, "I'll be with you, and this shall be your proof that it is I who has sent you. When you bring my people out of Egypt, you will worship God on this very mountain." But said Moses to God, "When I go to the Israelites and say to them, 'The God of your fathers has sent me to you,' if they ask me, 'What is his name?' what am I to tell them?" God replied, "I am who I am." Then he added, "This is what you shall tell the Israelites: 'I am sent me to you.'" God spoke further to Moses, "Thus shall you say to the Israelites, 'The Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, has sent me to you.' This is my name forever. This is my title for all generations." This is what God explains to Moses about who he is. He has given him his title, he has given him his name, and he says, "This is who I am for all the other generations to come. I am the present God, the God of Isaac, the God of Abraham, the God of Jacob, the God who changes not." And he has tried to explain to Moses who he is, because Moses was surprised. He had not encountered God before, he had not heard a voice before, but here he is encountering God. And so this is the explanation of God to Moses of who he is. So is this the God that we today worship? Or is it the God, do we worship other gods, assuming that we are worshiping the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob? Because he said, "This is my name forever. This is my title for all generations." That one, Moses now knew who he was. Because you just going to tell them that God sent me, and they will ask you, which God? Remember in Egypt, Those people were not worshiping the same God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They were used to those idols that were in Egypt. And so it would have been very hard for Moses to explain to them that there is another God unless he himself knew what he was talking about. So Moses has already been equipped by the first knowledge of God, that he is the ever present God, the God who hears the cry of his people, the God who sees the suffering of his people, and the God who comes to address our situation. He is the ever present God, the God who faileth not. And so when we follow that explanation, the explanation that God gave to Moses, then we know that God explained himself very well, and he had no problem telling Moses who he was. And he gave his own description so that Moses can understand and know which God is sending him back to Egypt. And so we are going to look at another example because we want to see at how can we know the true God. We will know the true God by first of all seeking him out. How do we seek him out? We seek him out through prayer. We seek the true God out through following the right things, following the commandments. We seek the right God out by prayer and looking for him through his word. We see in 2 Chronicles chapter 15, during the time, hear me, Asa, and all Judah and Benjamin. The Lord is with you when you are with him. And if you seek him, he will be present to you. But if you abandon him, he will abandon you. Those are the words that Asa has been given. For a long time, Israel had no true God, no priest, teacher, and no law. They were living without a true God, they were living without a preacher, and they were living without laws. But when in their distress they turned to the Lord, the God of Israel, and sought him, he was present to them. So this is the God who is always present, who hears the cry of our hearts and attends to our problems. In that former time, there was no place for anyone to go or come, but there were many terrors upon the inhabitants of the lands. Nation crushed nation, and city crushed city, for God destroyed them by every kind of adversity. But as for you, be strong and do not relax, for your work shall be rewarded. When Asa heard these words and the prophecy, he was encouraged to remove the detestable idols from the whole land of Judah and Benjamin, and from the cities he had taken in the highlands of Ephraim, and to restore the altar of the Lord, which was before the vesture of the Lord. Then he convened all Judah and Benjamin together, with those of Ephraim, Manasseh, and Simon, who sojourned with them. For many had fled to him from Israel when they saw that the Lord his God was with him. They gathered at Jerusalem in the 3rd month of the 15th year of Asa's reign, and sacrificed to the Lord at that time 700 oxen and 7,000 sheep. So they have realized that the God Asa is serving is a true God. He is the God who has protected them from their enemies. And so they have started worshiping this God of Asa. And they gathered at Jerusalem in the 3rd month of the 15th year of Asa's reign, and sacrificed to the Lord at that time 700 oxen and 7,000 sheep of the booty they had brought. They entered into a covenant to seek the Lord, the God of their fathers, with all their heart and soul. So when we resort to seeking God, the God of our fathers, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, we will find him. And everyone who would not seek the Lord the God of Israel, was to be put to death. Whether small or great, whether man or woman, they swore to the Lord with a loud voice, with shouting and with trumpets and horns. All Judah rejoiced over the oath, for they had sworn with their whole heart and sought him with complete desire, so that he was present to them. And the Lord gave them rest on every side. When they sought the Lord, he was present with them, and he gave them rest on every side. Now they have experienced the true God. These are not the idols that they were worshiping. This is now the true God, who they have gone to worship in Jerusalem. And he has shown himself. He is with them. He is delivering them from their enemies. And this is how they sought him with all their heart and soul. And they made sure that everyone who did not seek the Lord, the God of Israel, was to be put to death. So they are eliminating those idol worshippers, so that they will only remain with those ones who are seeking the true God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And so everything that happened during the reign of Asa, Maacah, the mother of King Asa, he deposited as queen mother because she had made an outrageous object for Asherah. Asa cut this down, smashed it, and burnt it at the Kidron Valley. Although the high places did not disappear from Israel, yet Asa's heart was undivided as long as he lived. He brought into the house of God his father's votive of offerings and his own, silver, gold, and various utensils. There was no war until the 35th year of Asa's reign. So when they turned their hearts away from the idols and they started worshiping the true God of Israel, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, God protected them. And we are told there was no war until the 35th year of Asa's reign. Later on, we hear that Asa turned away from God, and that is when now there were wars. But when they were seeking God, and when they were living in harmony with God, with God's laws, following his commandments, God kept them safe. He kept them under the shadow of his wings. And this is what we are told in Psalms 91. In Psalms 91, we are told that those who hide under the shadow, you who dwell in the shelter of the Most High, who abide in the shadow of the Almighty, say to the Lord, my refuge and fortress, my God in whom I trust. So when we are under his shadow, when we are under the true God, the true living God, then we are under his protection. We are under his hand. And anything that happens to us because he has allowed it to happen. And he has allowed it to happen for a purpose, a greater purpose, for his glory. So we are told that we will stay under the shadow of his wings. And this is what happened during the reign of Asa. They stayed under the shadow of the Lord's wings. And they continued enjoying God's favors for as long as they were together with God. But when they were tempted by the neighboring towns and villages to go against the God of Israel and start worshiping idols, then trouble started. And they started fighting wars which they could not have been fighting. And even if they were fighting, God would be fighting on their side. But can you imagine when God is not fighting on your side? You are not going to win that war. It is difficult for you to win the battle when God is not fighting on your side. And so, this one we are told that to know the true God, we must seek him out. We must seek his will. We must seek his knowledge. and we must seek his wisdom. Remember, that is what Solomon asked for, to be given wisdom, discernment, so that he is able to govern the people of God according to the will of God, how God wants it to be. This is our prayer as well, that we should be able to ask for wisdom, to ask for discernment, to know the true God and to serve the true God, so that we do not serve idols, assuming that we are serving the true God. Most of the times we find people who adore money, they adore power, and they forget that all these things have come from God. We have been told to seek first his kingdom, and all the rest shall be granted unto us. But do we really believe? Do we really trust? Do we really seek the true God? When Jesus met the Samaritan woman at the well, finally he told her, when people will worship, and they worship in truth and in spirit, this is when they will be worshiping the true God, in truth and in spirit. But when we worship other things in the name of God, when we worship our jobs, when we worship our families, when we worship other things that are not God and they are not of God, then the danger comes in, that we do not seem to know who the true God is. And that is why Jesus mentioned that it is not those who call me Lord, Lord, who will enter the kingdom. It is only those who do the will of the Father. And the will is following his commandments. The will be to follow his ways. The will be to follow his commandments. Jesus said, if you become my friends when you do what I command you to do. But when we are not doing what God commands us to do, then how do we follow God's will? We are not following God's will, but our own will. When we rely on our own understanding, we rely on our own will, that is not the Lord's will. We are supposed to commit ourselves to God so that we can know the true God, and so that we can worship the true God without making any mistakes, without going round and round in circles. Most of the times we go round and round in circles, seeking for God in the wrong places. Somebody called St. Augustine, after wasting so many years roaming the world, doing worldly things, it reached a point when he realized that he was seeking God in the wrong places. And he was not even seeking the true God. And so he confessed that late have I known you, O Lord. Late have I known you. Because he thought all these things of the world were what was pleasing God. He went searching for education, which was okay. He went searching for wealth, which was okay. And he also went searching to satisfy his flesh. And that is when he got completely lost into the world. But later on, he realized that he was searching for God in the wrong places. God was always there with him, but he was running all over the place looking for God. But finally, when he found him, he confessed that late have I known you, O Lord. And there was no greater joy than that, for him to have known that God was always there with him, even when he was in the world, doing all the worldly things. Yeah? Taking care of all the worldly pleasures. God was still there with him, because God is omnipresent. He looks at us and he keeps talking to us, but we are blinded by the evil one. And the evil one puts cotton wool into our ears, that when God is speaking, we cannot hear. Even our discernment is blurred by the evil one, so that when God tries to call out to us, we cannot hear. We walk blindly, we are deafened, our ears cannot listen. But when the ears will be opened and our hearts will be opened to God, we will find the true God. We will definitely find the true God, because we cannot continue walking in darkness forever. So what will happen? Because at the end of the day, you will leave this world and go elsewhere. And Jesus has advised us that we have to choose the narrow path. That is the narrow gate. And when he says not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father in heaven. Many will say to me on that day, Lord, Lord, do we not prophesy in your name? Did we not drive out demons in your name? Did we not do mighty deeds in your name? Then I will declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you evil doers. How sad that will be. You might have been a preacher. You might have been driving out demons. You might have been doing all the other things that you are doing. But are you following the true God? Are you following the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? Are you following the God, the Father? Thank you, Emily, for joining. Hello. And even those ones who are listening right now, thank you. Thank you. God bless you. Let us continue searching the true God, so that in the end we are not told that depart from me, you evildoers. I never knew you. It doesn't matter whether you are preaching. It doesn't matter whether you are driving out demons. It doesn't matter whether you are doing mighty deeds in the name of God, but you must have a relationship, a personal relationship with God. That one is not an option. It is only you who knows what kind of relationship you have with your God. The personal relationship you have with your God is what will determine how you take the next step. If you just take God lightly, you don't take him seriously, you don't take his word seriously, there is a problem. In the end, you'll be told, I do not know you. Get out of my sight, you evildoers. Because there is a danger of not truly knowing the true God. And this is why we are told that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. We must have that wisdom to discern. How do I follow the true God? How do I not get swayed by the evil one? You get derailed from the right path. Yeah? It is by the tree. You know, we are told that you'll know the tree. We are told even to beware of false prophets. Today we have many, many, many false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but underneath are ravenous wolves. By their fruits you'll know them. Do people pick grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? Just so, every good tree bears good fruit, and a rotten tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, nor can a rotten one bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit will be cut down and thrown into the fire. So by their fruits you will know them. That is how we will know them, by their fruits. What fruit are you bearing? You who is saying you are a man of God, you who is saying you are a woman of God, yet there are so many scandals that are surrounding you. So many. Are you true or are you false? we have many false prophets, the ones that Jesus is talking about here, that they come in sheep's clothing, but underneath they are ravenous wolves. These are the ones who will be told, I do not know you. They could be very good preachers. They could be casting out demons. They could be doing whatever else they are doing in the name of the Lord. But for as long as your heart is not with Him, just the way God spoke through Isaiah, He said that their hearts are far away from me because they worship me with their lips. It is their lips that keep saying, Lord, 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 but their hearts are far away from me. You'll know somebody's heart is far away from God first through their actions. How do they act when they are with other people? How do they treat other people? Do they treat other people like they are created, they are God's creation? Do they treat them the way Jesus would have treated them? Do they treat them the way they would want to be treated themselves? Or do they only think about themselves when they're in those crusades? I have not seen a crusade where people are fed the way Jesus fed. Jesus fed a lot of people, and he said he cannot send them hungry. But here we want people to come to crusades and even stay for 3-4 nights and provide no bread. We should follow the example of Jesus. Jesus taught, he taught people, he took care of their needs, he healed the sick, yeah, he fed the hungry. These are the things we should be taking care of. You can be a very good preacher, but you're not charitable. God is looking at your heart, not at the words that come out from your mouth. Because Jesus showed us how to become charitable. He showed us what to do. When he says he's the way, the truth, and the life, what does that mean? It means we should imitate him. The way Paul said, imitate me as I imitate Christ. That is what Paul said. And when you are imitating Christ, you will do everything that Christ did, because he said he has empowered us to do even more than he ever did. And he will be with us until the end of time. But if you only go to preach to people, you cannot visit them in hospital, and they are your congregants. You cannot even go visit their homes when they are having issues. I don't think that is right. You are not even giving to charity. That is not even right. All you want is people to come, give, but you're not giving back. I think the right thing is the Lord loves a cheerful giver, and it is better to give than to receive. I think those words are there in Corinthians. Paul told them very well that it is better to give than to receive. And when we are giving, it could be the word that I'm giving this evening. It could be a fellow Christian who needs my help. It could be my relative who needs my help. When I'm out there giving, the Lord says he loves a cheerful giver. You don't give grudgingly, you give because you are giving unto the Lord. And if you feel you're not giving unto the Lord, don't give, because the Lord loves a cheerful giver. If your spirit tells you, I'm not giving to the Lord, don't give, because it is said, the Lord loves a cheerful giver. So if you're feeling from within that you're not cheerful as you give, it's better not to give. And I would want to say that the true God, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, is a God who loves. We are told God is love, he's full of mercy, he's full of compassion. He's the omnipresent God, always present with his people. And when we know that this is the true God, A God who says He'll never leave us, He'll not abandon us. No matter what we are going through, He comes out seeking for us. We are told in Revelations chapter 3, verse 20, I am standing at the door knocking. Which door? The door of your heart, the door of my heart. The Lord is standing knocking. Can you imagine the creator of the universe standing at the door knocking? He will not knock the door down. He will not hit it to come through. No, he won't force the door open. He wants you to open voluntarily and welcome him in so that you can have a cordial relationship. It is like when you are wooing a girl, you don't force her to love you. No, you do all things to make sure that she comes to your side, but you cannot force her, because if you start forcing her, she will resist. Our God will not force us to be with him. He wants us to go with him freely, to go to him freely, to love him freely, to receive his grace freely, because he's ready to give us the grace. He has many gifts for us, so we have to go for them. We have to open the door for him to come in. But if we don't open the door, he will remain there knocking. Can you imagine a visitor knocking outside your door and you are not opening? Yeah, the visitor will get tired of knocking and walk away. But our God does not get tired. He's there standing at the door, knocking, 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 until the day you'll open that door of your heart for him. That is our true God. That is our Father. That is our Creator. And that is why he sent his Son to come and seek out the lost, because of his mercy, because of his love, the mercy that is never exhausted. We are told in Psalms 118 that his mercy is everlasting. It lasts forever. It changes not. So if this message has helped you, please share it out with your friends, with your relatives. Leave a comment, and please watch my other videos which I have uploaded, and will continue walking this journey of faith. Thank you. May God bless you abundantly. Thank you, Emily from Romania. Thank you so much.